My name, as I said, was Paul Hellyer. I'm a former Minister of National Defense for Canada. I served in 3 governments during a total of 23 and a half years as a Member of Parliament. Although as Minister of National Defense, I had sighting reports of UFOs. I was too busy to be concerned about them at the time because I was trying to unify the Army, Navy, and Air Force into a single Canadian Defence Force. And that itself was a kind of battle to the finish. So this was not high on my agenda. But about 10 years ago, I started getting interested. Former Minister of National Defense for Canada, Ottawa, sending me. I served in 3 governments. Subject. I told him I was too busy to read it, but he 23 and a half years as a Member of Parliament. He sent me a copy of, although as Minister of National Defense, Corso's book. I had sighting reports of UFOs. It took me a while to get around to reading it, but I was too busy to be concerned about them at the time because I was trying to unify the Army, Navy, and Air Force into a single Canadian Defence Force. Was really, that itself was a kind of impressed with what to the finish contained in it. So this was not high on my agenda. And what I thought to myself is there are huge about 10 years ago, I started getting interested due to, and the American people and the people of the world have a right to know on the subject. What's going on? I was too busy to read it, but he had confidence that they're part of it. He sent me a copy of an isolated thing. Colonel Corso's book. So after confirming the contents of the book, it took me a while to get around to reading it, but I took it for my summer reading, the invitation of Victor Vigiani, and was over here somewhere, and really cohort Mike Bird to speak was contained to a symposium at the University of Toronto. And what I thought to myself is there are huge issues. I said, huge issues. UFOs are as real as the airplanes flying overhead. Have a right to know what's going on. That gave me the dubious distinction of being the first person of cabinet rank in the G8 just group of countries. And so after confirming the contents of the book with a retired United States Air Force general, I accept the invitation of Victor Vigiani. Since then, I've learned a lot from many sources, including a number of the fantastic witnesses that we have heard these last 4 days. To a symposium at the University of Toronto. Blown away with them. The amount of information that was available. UFOs are as real as the airplanes flying overhead. But because I'm not a ufologist, that gave me the dubious distinction of being the first person of cabinet rank in the G8 group of companies. There are only a few things that I want to add in that particular unequivocal realm. First is that about in the 1960s sometime, there was a flotilla of UFOs headed south. Since then, I've learned a lot from many sources, including a number of the fantastic witnesses that we have heard these last 4 days. So they're so outstanding. I was just being really blown away with headquarters in Europe. The amount of information that was available. And I appreciate every single one of them. Or maybe divine providence before. Because I'm not a ufologist, button was pushed. I'm a politician around there and headed. Are only a few things that I want to add in that particular. They thought maybe they were Russian and they were very concerned about it. First is that about anyway in the 1960s sometime was a flotilla. Investigation was headed south into this whole NATO territory in Europe, and the document was prepared of which concluded headquarters in Europe that at least 4 species had been visiting Earth fortunately for thousands of years. Maybe divine providence before, and this is my own panic view at this stage as well. The flotilla turned around and headed back north. Except for that, there are just a couple of were Russian and they were very concerned about it. We've talked about that I'd like to refer to. And one was the investigation was referring to them into this whole subject until this morning when we don't know how. I think she was the first one. Document was prepared. Species. Which I have brought my concluded latest book that at least 4 species had been visiting survival plan Earth for the human species thousands of years as an aide-memoire. And this is my own. I named 5 at this stage as well. Different species here. I'm aware of more now. Except for that, there are just a couple of document just things that we've talked about that I'd like to refer to. And I think one was that we were referring to them as they, and I have in here until this morning when we don't know how. I think you actually named 3 different species. The Pleiades, Orion, I have brought my Andromeda, latest book, Stars of Light at the end of the tunnel. So survival plan for the human species as an aide-memoire. I don't think we can I
more
named
refer
5
to them as
different
they because they're not an
species here.
amorphous mass.
I'm aware of
They're
more
different species
now,
and consequently may
as a matter
have
of fact,
different
I saw a
agendas.
document,
I don't think
just a few days
we
ago
can say that
mentioned
they all
20.
have the same agenda any more than we can
and
say
I think
that
you,
the
Mr.
United
Chairman,
States
were interested in
and
some of
China
the places
and,
they might
and
come
Russia
from.
had the same
And I have in
agenda.
here
Our
executive
real
interests
interests may be very similar,
RETICULI,
but as of now, our perceived interests are
Pleiades,
still
Orion,
quite far apart.
Andromeda, and the Altair star system.
One more observation before I begin
So,
what I want to say, and that is that we spent quite a bit
I
of
don't
time
think we
talking
can
about
any
the 66-year-old
more refer them
cadavers to them as they
And
because
I was
they're
glad
not an
to have
amorphous mass.
this morning.
They are
finally
different
say
species
that there are
and
live
consequently may have
ETs
different agendas.
on Earth.
I don't think
At
we
this
can say
present
that
time.
they all have the same agenda any more than
And,
we can say that the United States,
at least 2 of them
China,
probably
and,
working
and
with
Russia,
the United States
have the
government.
same agenda. Our
I-
real interests may
the
be
seven
very similar. Other species
as
that I
of now,
learned
our
about
perceived
interests are still
not too long ago
quite far apart.
was called the tall whites.
One more observation
And,
before
this
I
is
begin
when
what I
Paula
want to
Harris
say,
broke the story just a few years ago.
and that is that we spent quite a bit of time
And through
talking
her good
about the
offices, I had the
66-year-old
chance
cadavers.
to
And
talk
I
for
was
about
glad
3
to have
hours
Linda
with
this
former
morning
Airman Charles
finally
Hall
say that there are live
and
ETs
listen to this
on Earth
absolutely
at
fascinating
this
story
present time
of how he
And,
was working,
at least 2
first
of them
of all, he
probably
was
working with
scared out of
the
his
United States
skin.
government.
But after that,
When he got to
the
know them,
seventh,
how he
the
was working with and
other
finally
species that I
we
learned
came to
about
trust each other
not too long
and
ago
have a good working relationship
called
with
the tall
whites.
at the
And,
gunnery
this
range
is when Paula
at
Harris
Indian
broke the
Springs,
story just a few
Nevada.
years ago. And these
And
tall
through her
whites
good
were
offices,
living
I had
on
the
United States Air Force
chance
property.
to talk for
and
about
working
3
in
hours
cooperation
with
the United States
former
Air
Airman
Force
Charles
and sharing
Hall.
technology.
And
He wrote a book,
this
incidentally, called
absolutely
Millennial
fascinating
Hospitality.
story
There are
of
4
how
different
he was
versions
working.
but Paula says
And
that
first of all, he was
millennial
scared out of his
hospitality.
skin.
Number
But
2,
after that,
when he
is
got
the
to
best.
know
I
them,
think
how he
that's
was
the one I
working
read,
with,
and
and finally
is a very
they
interesting
became to
read
trust
if
each
you want
other,
to sort of
get
and
inside the
have a good
the
working
problem of what
relationship
it's like
with the
to
tall
bump into these
whites
people floating across
at the gunnery range
terrain in the
at Indian
desert.
Springs, Nevada.
Well, enough
And
on
these
that for
tall
now. My
whites were
interest
living
is in full
on
disclosure.
United States Air Force property.
And working in cooperation with the
my
United
only
States Air
caveat
Force
is, I
and
think
sharing
probably
technology.
I would
With it.
say 95
He wrote
to
a book
98%.
incidentally called Millennial Hospitality.
Disclosure.
There are
know
4
one or
different
two things
versions,
that
but
I'm not
Paula
sure
says that
should be in the public domain.
Millennial
at least yet.
Hospitality, they will be
Number
someday,
2
I'm sure, but not
is the
maybe
best. I think that's the
immediately.
one I read, and
Just
it's a
as
very
children
interesting read.
survive,
If you want to
sort of get inside
the idea
the
of
problem
the
of what it's like to bump
the
into
Tooth
these people
Fairy
floating
and
across
Santa
the,
Claus when they
the
become
terrain
adult.
in the desert.
I think that tax-paying citizens
Enough on that
are
for
quite
now. My
capable
interest is
of
in full
accepting the
disclosure.
new and broader reality.
And we live in a cosmos teeming
my only
with life.
caveat is I think probably
of various sorts.
I would say 95 to 98%.
The fact that some other civilizations are more advanced than we are may be
know of
humbling.
1 or 2 things that I'm not sure.
But that could
should
be a
in the public
necessary
domain,
step
at least yet, in our
It
survival.
will be someday, I'm sure, but not maybe immediately. But just as children survive the idea of the Tooth Fairy and Santa Claus when they become adult, I think that tax-paying citizens are quite capable of accepting the new and broader reality that we live in a cosmos teeming with life of various sorts. The fact that some other civilizations are more advanced than we are may be humbling, but that could be a necessary step in our survival.